still the government making the final decision. It's still up to the government. Because think about it. The governor of California, Governor Newsom, knows for a fact that what the California Reparations Task Force, what they're proposing as far as the budget that they're putting out there for all of the people in California is well over how much they even make in taxes in California. How much, this is real. It's supposed to be there. The majority of y'all not supposed to be there. And that was more than just reparations. That was land allotments. That was better education, forming your own government. But keep in mind, it was still infiltrated because all of that is being overwatched by the government. Still, regardless if they so-called have their sovereignty, in which they don't, technically, because if you form a nation, listen, forming a nation is not the same thing as forming a family. Keep in mind, in the past, we never had nations. We had tribes, clans, families. This nation thing is a brand new thing. Brand spanking new. When you talk about nation, you're talking about a club. That's what you're talking about. Keep in mind, we didn't have to have member ID cards to be a part of our families. The only time you need to show ID membership cards is when you're a part of a particular club. That ain't got nothing to do with family at all, no matter how you may feel. So if you're card carrying as a member, once again, some of my family members are card carrying. I'm not knocking y'all, but I just want y'all to understand the difference between the two. There is no way that you have any form of sovereignty when you have to carry a card to say that you are a member of a federal government regulated so-called sovereignty organization. I'm for real. So, okay, let's go back now. Let's go back. Now, if this is a proposed update on how the government is going to track people's races, and that, you gotta understand that yes, what they want you to do is separate yourself from immigrants, which would be people from Africa and other countries. Now, this is no knock to anybody of other countries. I love my Africans. I love my Caribbean Islanders or Caribbean Islanders, which is South America technically. Okay, we still consider them a part of our bloodline when it comes to Turtle Island. That's North Central and South and the surrounding islands. That's Turtle Island. That makes up Turtle Island. So that's Hawaii included. Also, I just want y'all to understand, hold up, that what the government wants to do, instead of naming everybody black, okay, this is what we should step in there, and this is what I'm currently working on with a couple folks. But I'm working on something, okay, on this note right here, because this is what we should implement. This is where we should step in and say, look, we don't want to be labeled black at all. Because what are you attaching us to? Because you're saying that we're black Americans, but how come there's no label on the census that indicates that there are white Americans? In fact, the 2020 census, the results are still not out. Not out right now. You don't know. And on the 2020 census, guess what? They told the so-called whites that they have to differentiate themselves by way of identification by stating where their family originated from, if they originated from a different country of another continent. That's another reason why I'm looking for those results, because that also shows how many immigrants are actually here. Hold up. That are even considered white right now. And it don't matter their skin complexion, because keep in mind, the status of white by way of the census has nothing to do with skin complexion. Because if it did, then why are Africans considered white? Some people in South America are considered white. Some Latinos are being considered white right now. I'm not making this up. And y'all hollering about we got to fight for blacks, but don't you think that if the government was never for us from the beginning and we were not considered to be white, then what's the opposite of white? Especially if it's the status. If it has nothing to do with skin complexion, then the opposite of white as a status, think about that. Put two and two together. It is definitely not better than white. It will be below it. Don't forget, before they racially categorized us, they classified us. They separated us in classes. So they put us below. Okay? The first class citizens are those that are considered white. We were fighting for citizenship in the 1960s. So that means that we weren't even considered first class citizens up until that time period. How is that not being brought up? And this is facts. This is real. They were fighting for first class citizenship then, and they were still being treated unequal. Now, since they considering us citizens right now, then where do we fall? Are we first class, second class, or third? Keep in mind, there's three of them. Where do we fall? Because if we were first class, just like how these whites were, then we will be considered white. Once again, that has nothing to do with your skin complexion. That is the social construct that was put together by this government to label those that they are in favor with when it comes to immigrant relationship. They're going to swoop you white. Yep, we good with y'all folks. You see what I'm saying?
Relax and take notes. Take notes.
So they going to get treated way better. Now, all these people that they saying in this article that are doing research and blah, 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 blah. For example, just think about this for example. In California, we know where slavery was located. Okay? I mean, throughout all of our school years, we were taught that the majority of slavery was happening in the South. Some was happening north and the east. It was never mentioned that it was in the west. The reason why, here we go, is because California wasn't a part of the 13 colonies. So I would love to see, keep that in mind. Hold on, let me back up a little bit. California was not a part of the 13 colonies. The 13 British colonies, by the way.
That's right.
They weren't. California came in late. Now, what slavery are you referring to? That's what I'm saying. Now, are you talking about as far as people that migrated to California, who had descendants that were in the north and the south or the east of the Americas? That's what I want to know, because California ain't have nothing to do. You see what I'm saying? That's why I'm like, I would love to see their research. They talking about something, they gathered research, they gathered evidence. Make it public. Get the people involved instead of pretending like you about to give these people some money. Based off of like 5 or 6 different people that come together on a Zoom call and nobody putting nothing up on screen. They just talking. I go back and I'm watching their videos and they literally just talking. I'm like, come on, ain't nobody putting nothing up? Do you have any records? Did you go to the Library of Congress one time? One time. Let me see what y'all talking about. Where's slavery in California? unless you're referring to people that migrated to California, that family members were affected. I'm talking about there was no direct slavery inside of California. And that's why I was like, no, this is a Democrat. What they doing right now is bumping this stuff up in order for people to vote Democrat again. And I'm like, come on, bro. Like, I hope my people don't fall for this. Because, once again, it looked good, but is it really good? Is it really good? It's almost too good to be true. And I want y'all to see that the Wild Wild West is technically Texas, by the way. Technically. The Wild Wild West was referring to Texas. Keep that in mind. Not necessarily California. That was Texas. Even though Cali was in the West. But the Wild Wild West was referring to Texas. Yes. Yes. Them cowboys and Indians was in Texas. Okay, I mean we had cowboys in other, and like Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas,
Mississippi.
Like they was all around. Alabama, they was in this. But I'm just saying, the Wild Wild West was Texas. Texas is Mexico technically. Mexico. This how you look how they changing it. And look how long it took them to get Texas. And that's one of the biggest states, just like California. That's why they didn't have that type of stronghold in California at that time. We talking about way later, in order for them to get California, as far as saying that slavery happened in large numbers. And then on top of that, I wanted to tell y'all something about the proposal. I took a dab into, my wife and I took a dab into some of the records that they have published on